So we have a very interesting topic. And actually, I must have to admit that when I got the topic, I had to myself go to an AI to figure out what does infinite equilibrium mean. And I think we have some people in the audience. Anyone wants to tell us what is infinite equilibrium? हाँ कोई है नहीं हमें भी नहीं पता हम भी पता कर रहे हैं अभी उसके बारे में so we had a good chat before we came in here so and I'll give you the answer of what AI told me and it said imagine a tug of war where both teams are perfectly matched they each have 1 billion people all with the same strengths pulling equally hard even though there are so many people the rope stays in the middle and doesn't move. That's infinite equilibrium. I think that's a little bit impossible to achieve, so I think that's why it's called. Lots happening, but perfectly balanced. And I think all of us can relate to this as CXOs, CEOs, that so much is happening around us, and how do we keep the balance of running the organization? And I think what we'll do is we'll talk about how organizations can manage this chaos, because end of the day, that's about managing the business, and results in the results that we have. So my first question to all of you is, in this chaos that we are seeing, in the context of today's persistent global disruptions, right, tariff wars, there's a war right down next door, what does infinite equilibrium truly means to you guys? And how do you handle that as an organization or as CEOs? So Rajneesh, we'll start from you. You had a lot of answers to us in the pre-meeting that we had, so we'd love to hear that from you.
So I'm sure none of the audience wants to listen to the answers that we were having in speaker launch. That was more closed-door discussion. So as an organization, I believe the first challenge for the leadership team is to create an organization which is far more calm, to have their horses in control and not react to everything that is happening outside. They are more balanced and they can respond to the outside world. And while they are calm and they are balanced, they need to be far more agile because the situation is changing much faster. So I can think of a monk or a gymnast who is very calm, but is having immense possibilities to respond in a thoughtful and impactful manner. So how do we create an organization which has the agility to change path, but have far more maturity and calmness to absorb and respond with a very calculated manner?
Shriti, this one I'll take to all of you, then other questions we'll take to few people. Yeah.
So, Vineet, actually, I would say that, we need to also redefine some of the things that are put in this statement. So, this is the age of redefining everything. So even equilibrium, as what Google or AI says, tug of war, where, both parties are tugging, but actually, it's not that anymore, I would think. It's more about the fact that you have to redefine the fact what is equilibrium in this modern world, what we're facing all today, and then redefine also chaos in a more elegant manner. So we should not look at it as chaos, but we should look at it as disruption. Because the world is getting disrupted, the moment we think it of as chaos, it just kind of makes us the inclination to fight, whereas it should be an inclination to embrace and see how you can be game ready and go ahead, right? I think that's one of the things, that to always embrace chaos or disruption and be game ready. The second thing that I would just say is, Rajneesh very nicely put it, that, in an organization, you need to have a certain amount of stay, ठहराव जिसको बोलते हैं, calmness. I would say that in organizations, and I'm talking about for all of us, our companies are quite, have been there long in the market, and we define, one of the, people or companies who have withstood many, many years of disruption. I think the purpose is very important here. More than things which are happening to us fleetingly, I think the purpose of every organization and how grounded you are in the purpose that you do, for what you do, this is what it's like. Rajneesh talked about, a monk or a gymnast. I would talk about a tree. The purpose helps you to go deep-rooted, and no matter what storm you have, the tree is able to withstand it. So I would say purpose
Fantastic,
is very important, and that's how organizations, no matter what is happening, should have a sense of purpose, which draws consumers to them transparently, irrespective of everything. Transparently and very, I would say, honestly and truthfully. So very simply, I would say that.
Gopal, you run an e-commerce business which is obviously getting disrupted, quick commerce, 10 minutes delivery, many other challenges that you have. How do you think equilibrium in your organization, how do you handle that? Obviously, there's board pressure, many other things in your organization. How do you handle that?
Yeah, I think Vineet and everyone, the topic is quite relevant to what is happening right now. And obviously, like, when Vineet sent the topic or, infinite equilibrium, one of the definitions of infinite equilibrium, okay, if you go as a physicist, right, and being a physics person, I can say that it's basically a state where you can have multiple equilibriums, right? And equilibrium means once you balance something. So infinite equilibrium is something where, in our parlance, you will have many situations, okay, which can take you to equilibrium, right? Now, I think as a person who is heading the company, when you have multiple opportunities in front of you, right, you have to decide that which is that opportunity, okay, you want to make as your play area, right, and you want to work upon. And, while you have your team, and you will see that there are team members who will say that we can work on a opportunity, like 5 people in your team can talk about 5 CXOs, 5 different opportunities. There can be some people who can say that, we can pursue 2 opportunities together. So you can also do normal e-commerce, and you can also do quick commerce, right? And there are some who can say that why waste, why be number 3, number 4 in the race? Let us do everything, right? And see what happens. So I think, there is no right or wrong here. And just to answer your question, I think the way we all are getting into new things, right? And obviously, the quick commerce, so-called 10 minutes delivery is not kind of heard of anywhere else in the world. So whether, I look at ensuring that I deliver within 3 days or 4 days in e-commerce, or I also start putting my leg into quick commerce, saying that now I will deliver in 10 minutes, and what kind of quality, what kind of convenience, what kind of customer service I can give in. So I think for a CEO, it becomes a lot of work, right? Where, where each screen is showing you that you can reach an equilibrium. So what is that screen where you put your, thumb on and say that, okay, let's work on this particular page and try to reach an equilibrium over there. So I think to start with, my thing is that you need to have those kind of, situations in front of you. And with the help of your team, as a CEO, you should be able to put, okay, or click the right button, okay, which takes you to a equilibrium, and it is one of the infinite equilibriums.
Devang, your industry is definitely one which is still trying to find that equilibrium after COVID, right? I think others have still found some part, not 100%, but how are you handling that, and what do you think about your industry in terms of that equilibrium, and will that ever come? That is Rajneesh's question, not mine. Being a mall operator, he wants to know this.
Well, yes. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So, I mean, first of all, yes, cinema as an industry has gone through, especially, last week in the same conference, we have these waves which was going on, and right from PM to all the biggest of the Bollywood stars, they were saying that next 10 years is for India entertainment, and we are going to grow big. That's what we saw in 22 after we reopened. We had like the biggest movies, starting with movies like Gangubai, then KGF, RRR, and all the researches that we had done that, after pandemic, the behavior is going to change. And suddenly we saw the best quarter ever in the history of Indian cinema. And then we said, okay, I mean, all those research that was done, it doesn't apply to India. India is different. And immediately the 2 consecutive quarter was the worst ever quarter that we have seen. So it was like talking about equilibrium, right? So One thing that we started internalizing is that we are sure, and then the word that I want to use is belief. If we believe that this business is going to stay and remain, which is what we believe in, there will be peaks and valleys, which used to be in weeks before. Now it is in probably years. So we are trying to adapt, like Rajneesh said. We are staying calm. We are going back to our partners to understand what is happening. But unanimously within the organization, across the countries, we believe that this business is here to stay. It keeps giving us those sparks with movie like Pushpa and Chava that comes in between, and suddenly we were talking about in February, I mean, many of the retailers came in, so we don't know why our sales were highest February that we have seen in many years, and that was of course because of movies drawing abnormally high crowd for the malls. So yeah, I mean, belief is the word I would want to park with, and I'm sure water will find its own level with us putting in consistent efforts over there.
Thanks, Devang. Anurag, yours is another industry which has gone through a lot of disruption. Also, replicating product is constant challenge, and I think how do you find equilibrium in that, and how do you sleep well in the night?
Well, medicines help. No, so I'm going to give you a little practical perspective of this. We have been.
वो prescription कह रहे हैं सबको भेज देना, audience को भी भेज देंगे.
So, I think very practically speaking, I think first thing that I believe we needed to do, and especially post-pandemic, was to sensitize the team that disruption is a way of life. It is going to happen. Accept it with an air of inevitability. It is bound to happen. Now, what do you do? In our industry, unfortunately, it's something which is about it's the lowest hanging fruit when you are looking to celebrate. What do you say? Let's go out for a meal. Let's go out for a drink. And when you go there, suddenly if you are trying to change too much because suddenly you see lots of international brands coming in and new trends, Korean and I don't know what all coming in, you may get lost because you have a domain expertise of doing something. You have to remain true to your product. If I'm running, say, a burger shop, I suddenly cannot be selling, Korean skewers out there because Korean is in the season. But where do you accept? You have to find some, if I have to use the oft-repeated word equilibrium, maybe somewhere you get some Korean flavors into the burgers, but don't change the burgers into something Korean. That is very, very important. But the most important part, if you ask me, is for an organization in this changing world, is to retain the culture. Culture is what defines a company. And I think if you can retain your culture and you are nimble-footed in your decision-making vis-a-vis disruptions that happen or you foresee them happening, I think it will just hold you well.
So you led me to my next question, which is brilliant. And I think that's something which all of us want to do. How do you foster this organization culture that embraces this chaos? Right?
Nobody can create a culture. It evolves from within.
So how? How does this evolve within? Because everyone is looking for these answers.
So I'll tell you, very practically speaking, what happens is what you do and what your people see you doing becomes your culture. Now, to give you a very, very basic example, you go to a restaurant and let's say you ordered a grilled chicken which comes with a mashed potatoes and vegetables. Now you go and say, I don't want mashed potatoes, I want French fries. You have two kinds of response. Somebody who will say, yes, absolutely right. And somebody will say, sorry, sir, my chef will not give it, or I'll charge you extra, some crap. That is where culture starts. The moment your team knows that it is absolutely fine to make sure that the consumer, the guest who has walked into your restaurants to go back happy, and these things, like for example, I'm very proudly saying, I always tell my team, please do not worry of the sales, profit and loss during the course of the operation. Look at it before you open your till and after you close your till. During the course of the day, your only job is to make sure everybody goes back happy. Because I'm in an experiential business. I can't be anything else. So this is another culture. This is culture is not something which you can write down as an SOP and tell you have to follow it. It's something that people observe, people learn, and it evolves within the organization. These smaller things, and that is what for me is culture.
Shriti, I'll come to you. You run a very large organization. How do you manage this culture? And we spoke about कि area manager से culture बनता है. So how do you manage, because you have very wide operations, right? So how do you manage this, foster the culture that can withstand all this chaos?
See, as far as culture is concerned, as Anurag rightly said, it comes from within, right? And I would just say that when you have teams who you are transparent with, transparency is very important. When you are open, honest, and transparent with your teams, when you lead from the front, when you're first amongst equals, and when you kind of create that, create the environment that here's the challenge, take this challenge on, there are no right or wrong things, and be bold enough to, do what you want to do. I think that ability to give the teams the confidence to go ahead and take their own decisions is very important in culture. That shows that the teams are going to go the extra mile on their own without waiting for instructions. I think that is one very important thing, where you foster a culture where decision making is independent. Secondly, foster a culture of resilience also. There is a lot to say which we don't talk about much, is resilience, and how are you really, looking at disruptions that are happening, but stay very true to what you are. If I look at our industry, there's a lot of disruption in beauty, What we started off as a single organization, today we have evolved ourselves very fast because the consumer is working very fast. So within our organization, the culture is, we've come this far, but we are only as good as today and what's new. So I think embracing new things is also very important in a culture, because the teams need to learn new skills. And it's a two-way process, right? A culture which comes from within, but also a culture that starts looking at new things and is always ready to take new. So in this environment, you can't just foster a culture of, tradition or modernity. You have to blend both. So, I mean, that's what I would say. How you can have everybody looking at the future journey, what it takes. You might not have all the answers, but in a situation like us where there's so much of disruption in beauty, we've decided to go, we are a specialist in beauty, we've decided to go all channels. So we have Body Shop, which is retail. We have Avon, which is direct selling. We have, these, Kylie Cosmetics and other brands, which are celebrity beauty. So these all have their own channels. So in a beauty environment, we are going across all the different verticals and creating that culture of beauty, culture of service, and culture of excellence. So I think you have to mix a bit of skill, you have to mix a bit of culture, you have to mix a bit of forward-looking, and make the organization a very dynamic organization.
Gopal, my question to you on the culture part is, your business requires a lot of innovation also. So how do you foster this culture of innovation, which could also lead to challenges? And how does that impact your equilibrium as an organization?
Okay, let me say that I'm very inspired by him.
Yeah.
Okay, what you said, and I don't think I have better things to say than what he said, right? Where the culture stems from. So I'll give you some practical things which I follow, right? For example, I realized being an e-commerce industry, first thing I get up in the morning, okay, and whatever Saturday I pick my mobile and I check my apps, right? I will religiously spend at least 25 to 30 minutes going to every page, okay, checking every scroll. Is there a problem with the link, right? Are all, pricing shown properly? How has been, okay, the overall sales? Because it follows a trend. I realized that maybe I'm the only person who does it. Okay, and when I started sending, oh, you have written this sentence, okay, it's not in the sentence case, it's not in caps, it's not in small, right? One, a word is starting from capital letter, one is small points like this, right? You have used full stop here, you have not used full stop here, right? You are trying to show a bag, okay, but you have shown a whole body in the picture and the bag is very small. In general, I'm very particular about these kind of things, because if I don't do well, okay, the customer doesn't see it well. Now, I started realizing that none of the teams actually do it, right? They just leave it on the site team. There is a site merchandising team, right, who prepares all the apps. So I certainly read the site merchandising 5 team, okay, the whole business team is 150 people. 150 people, okay, are actually depending on the 5 people to ensure everything is right. So what I did, instead of telling them, I started doing it myself and I create a lot of groups on Teams and I started sending messages 6 a.m. in the morning, 6:30 a.m. in the morning, this is wrong, that is wrong, this is wrong, that is wrong. And suddenly people realize that Gopal checks up everything. Right? And I also send a forward to the business head stating that I found this, okay, in your place. Now this is where the culture stems, right? Because you can't show a improper or incorrect product to the customer at incorrect price, okay, or whatever it is. So like you said, I did it, okay, today I can proudly say that everybody does it because they know that if they don't see it, okay, I will see it for sure. Second thing, okay, again from practical perspective, okay, and because I think there was a lot of theoretical, I want to share this. We in our business, okay, so we are a lot of analytical driven business, right? So every 30 minutes, okay, the sales report comes in, every 30 minutes. And it shows you at whatever level you want to see how many units sold, what price sold, right? What kind of discounts are given. So there is a graph which comes in and there are a lot of dashboards. Okay? There's a war room, there are dashboards for 2-3 people, but for each, individual, this reports is going on. Now, sometimes you have, you want to give 40% discount, okay, but the mistake was done, it was written only as 40 rupees. Right, so the customer is getting all for 40 rupees. Now, what is happening if you check your business every 30 minutes, the mistake maximum can happen only for 30 minutes, but nobody was doing it. I saw suddenly that, mistake is being identified after 6 hours, after 12 hours, next day. So I said, fine. Then I started ensuring that I'm checking the whole thing every 30 minutes myself and started putting, action towards others. Suddenly I realized now everybody is doing themselves. So like you said, the culture flows from the top and culture can be anything. But I believe that what your business purpose is, right, is to serve the customer. You cannot give wrong thing. अगर 40 rupees में मैंने product डाल दिया बाद में बोलूँ कि मैं cancel करूँगा mistake था, that's a big problem for me. So why not check it beforehand? So I think it stems from there and you make things which are good for your customers, okay, and you foster that culture in your employee, okay, so that they ensure that they're always working for the customer. I think that's it.
So fantastic. Thanks, Gopal. I think that's really practical things, and I agree with you. Unless you don't check, the culture doesn't build of checking, and I think it's true in every company. It's not yours. I think it's everywhere. But my next question is to Devang and Rajneesh. I think both of your businesses operate only on collaborations because you're dependent on either a retailer, you're dependent on a production house. How do you foster a collaborative environment in the same part to ensure that your business is also growing and equilibrium, because everyone wants growth, right? You want growth. How do you ensure that in today's environment where so much disruption is happening around you? So, Devang, you want to take it first?
Yeah, sure. So, like you rightly mentioned, that the content is the one which drives our business, and also depending on how the mall positioning and the location is, those are the two factors which mainly drives our business. But what we've seen, especially the behavior change which has happened, and in that behavior change, it's not about, many of the forum that I go to is your business is disrupted because of OTT, and we did some research and we really spoke to people who were coming and why the frequency has gone down. In that specific environment where the frequency of movie going has gone down, how do we collaborate better to drive footfall for malls and for other retailers? Because as in one of the largest space occupant in the mall, it is our responsibility to drive footfall and not other way around. Of course, we need a safe environment and we need the place to be operated and functional with the basic thing done right. So while going back to basic, we understood that how can we use data to work collaboratively with production house And I want to give you an example, especially what we did with the production house, one of the Hollywood studios. Animation as a movie was considered as, movies for kids in India. Well, you look at in the Western world, movie like, Super Mario has done equal business as, let me put things in perspective, Avatar. When Avatar did 100, Super Mario did 100. And we were wondering what happened, because in India, Super Mario did like 2% of what Avatar did. And we were like, what's really happening? And then we collaborated with the production house. We understood why in global market it is doing so well. We took the target audience. We, with our data that we have for last 10 years, we worked together to see that why don't we give them a message, not even an offer, message about how well this movie is made, and awareness about, how uh, this content can be experienced on a big screen, and you will have the equal a good experience. And then we saw that to the highest conversion rate to those target audience and the cinemas and the sample size that we had taken, and we had 6% conversion of the emails that we sent, which is huge. I mean, and that's something which I wanted to cite an example with, on animation movies becoming bigger in the country where, it is considered as a movie for kids. So using the data efficiently is what the point is. I mean, if we use the data efficiently and then not necessarily always with, discounts. I mean, those are the things that are given that India is sweeping economy. We still are offer driven, and then we keep pushing offers, the business will grow. But not necessarily only offer drives the business. Sometimes, apart from giving experience, apart from making sure that everything is in its place and how it should be, still you need to use the data more effectively to see that it's a win-win for both the product owner, which in our case is the production houses or the producer or distributor, and for eventually for the mall owner to whom we pay as a part of our revenue. So if we work data, if we work with the data efficiently and then use those data in a way, uh, there will be a good traction for collaboration, is what I would say.
Rajneesh?
I think first I want to really thank Gopal, the examples he shared. So, how do you create a culture that automatically makes people deliver certain outcomes? And if we look at R is a small industry, not so many players, unlike retail industry where there are so many players. Most of the employees move around in these organizations, but the way they work, the way they behave in each organization is completely driven by the culture of that organization. It has, the individual loses the individuality and becomes part of that culture. So, as Gopal said, I think I always believed that culture is not created by answers leader give. Culture is created by the questions that leader ask. Right? Now, if Gopal is started asking question why the bag picture is small, suddenly the whole culture is to say, bas picture theek hona chahiye, price galat hoga chalega. Right? Because Gopal ko picture dekhna hai pehle. So, whatever is the leader asking on questions is the culture that will develop. So, if we think we are telling people to do right thing, we are giving right answers, and the minute as a leader I ask the wrong question, the culture develops on that basis. And the other valid point, to create culture, you have to inspect things that matter to your business. For us as a retail, as a mall developer, we can only progress, grow, if the consumption at the mall is growing, right? Otherwise, we can't grow. And to grow the consumption at the mall, the retailers have to grow year on year, or whatever new brands have come, have to do better than the earlier one. Is a simple arithmetic. So how do I bring in a culture that fosters that collaboration and support to the retailers to do better? And most of the times, a simple question or the process that we defined, right? And we looked at, we said, okay, let's track first 6-week sales report of every new retailer that opens. It suddenly brings the entire organization focused on at least hand-holding for 6 weeks for a new retailer to say, boss, the retail sale is less, more, but then there is a process defined that you have to track that report and you have to report that number. So there are set of people who are working on it. So you got to see parameters which are required for business growth, bring in a culture by questioning. So if I am doing a round, I will always go to a new store opening, meet the store manager, understand what is happening. Are they getting the conversion they expected or not? Have they got merchandise that they expected or not? Ask my team what have we done to support their launch, what marketing support we have given, what communication they have, and find out gaps. And if sometimes I find that me just calling a senior person in retailer side or in my company side helps doing some kind of promotion together, we just do it on ground. So it's kind of doing things which everybody notices. And they don't want to be saying we did nothing unless you came to the site, because everybody has to answer. No? So how do you create parameters, define them, which helps your business grow? How do you create processes around it? And what kind of questions you ask when you're on the ground and when you are dealing with situation defines the culture. And if you get the right culture, I think the organizations will become and growth-oriented organizations.
Lovely. So I think one thing that I think everyone is grappling around is Gen Z, right? We've been talking about this, and I think in all our businesses, they have become a very important part, either as customers or employees. And how is this disruption impacting each of us? Or if any one of you want to volunteer, I'm happy to take it to that question. Maybe Shriti, you want to talk, or Rajneesh?
No, I can give you same topic, morning session, Harish Bhatt and Shiv was there and they were talking. And sorry, Shriti, just wanted to pick that discussion, what they were talking. They said the basic has not changed. The aspiration has not changed, that being trendy or to be seen part of the age group or the relevant trend participation has not changed. And the value proposition that customer is seeking has not changed. And the value not to be compared with price. I can be buying a most expensive product, but I still seek value in that. So even if with Gen Z, if you look at the basic three, the aspiration, the value proposition, and being part of the tribe, it is the same. Now, how they define these three parameters might have changed, and it has changed always, right? It has changed every 10 years, 15 years. That's the going back to the basics of the business. If you look at how they define value, how they define aspiration, and how they define or how the collective trend is, you will find your answers. It's my take on that.
Shriti, you also have employees who are Gen Z now, so how do you deal with them? And how do you bring equilibrium? No, I'm asking Shriti. Yeah.
Oh, Shriti, okay, sorry. I was thinking. So actually, Gen Z is a very interesting, while we are trying to simplify it, and rightly said by Rajneesh, that it's actually the same. But there are 2-3 places where they're a little different. First of all, they're unforgiving. I think that's one of the things that in our generation or a generation earlier to that, there was not so much of, unforgivingness. They're unforgiving. You lose them once and you lose them forever. I mean, what the traits lead to that, we can have a separate discussion on that. But I think if you ask Gen Z, they're very unforgiving. Now, if they're unforgiving means one wrong experience is enough for them, right? That is the difference from what we were, one generation ago to this Gen Z. The second point is that one thing which is very intelligent about Gen Z is that they like transparency. I would say generation before, you like the show, you like to show something, and you like to be what you. But Gen Z likes transparency. So you tell them very honestly and in a manner that is not, how should I say, so authenticity, I would say. If you're authentic, that's something that, that's why the most offbeat things are gaining popularity today, because they're authentic, right? Whether it's the kind of movies that happen, whether it's the kind of OTTs, whether the kind of games that people see, it's very authentic, right? So unflinchingly unforgiving, very authentic. Gen Z is different. Transparency. And like Rajneesh said, they have their own value system, right? Whether that value is on trend or association or tribe, they really like this value system. But loyalty is one factor which is very different there. They are not very fluid as far as loyalty is concerned. So why we can't be all of this to Gen Z because we have to let them find them in the journey. But where we meet them in the journey, in terms of being true, transparent, authentic, I think those companies, organizations, brands which are true, transparent, authentic, and try to get some kind of, um, uh, community, tribe, sense of belongingness, they will win with Gen Z.
Gopal, I'm sure you also have many Gen Zs in your company, many Gen Zs as your customer. Are you seeing something different or something you could add?
So I think
Your answers are generally interesting also, so we'll like to hear.
I'll keep it very brief, and again, I'll come to examples, right? Practical examples. I think this is one topic where all of us have been, kind of thinking and overthinking and underthinking and talking about Gen Zs. I'm sure at my age, I have a Gen Z at home, and I'm sure all of us, are in this stage. So there was so the media across was, creating a picture of Gen Z and still creating a picture of Gen Z. Gen Z is this, Gen Z is what, okay, how is that? So, okay, I don't want to get into too much detail, but I want to tell that I decided to bring at least 50 to 100 trainees at any given point of time in my office, right? So we started working on bringing summer trainees from fashion institutes, okay, from MBA institutes and all that. And okay, I have only one person from my office here. Okay, the reason was to also understand this Gen Z, right? What is this animal, how they are behaving, okay, how they are dressing and all that. And I'm a keen observer, right? So my job is to observe. I go to office every day, right? And I see a lot of these Gen Zs coming to office every day, number one. Number two, I want to say that in my team, in my CEO's team, I've got, I think, 2 Gen Zs. I think that they're 100 times more intelligent than me. So the way they come out with ideas, the way they are able to thrash any idea where you take time to think, okay, and the way they see things, okay, versus the way we see things, there is nothing wrong in the way they see things, because we also make a lot of mistakes if we say that we are talking with 25 years of experience, they are talking with 2 years. Yes, maturity is a little less, right? But I believe that's a different way of living and thinking they have, okay? It's not this, if you want to be a 25-year-old management philosophy and you want to put it on your Gen Z, it is not going to work. So the best thing, okay, I've decided with Gen Z, you become Gen Z. You go into their shoes, you start talking to them. You cannot use their lingo, right? You have to learn their lingo through Google or any other place. Once you learn, you understand very clearly. So I think there are a lot of things which I can say about Gen Z, because we also have a Gen Z tab. Okay, we have made a click drip, understanding those people manage that tab. This tab is managed by Gen Zs. What they want to write as a slug, what t-shirt they want to choose, what denim they want to choose. They are the stylists. They don't have any formal education. They are the ones who will make the chords. So I think there are so many things I can talk about it, but finally I want to say that if you want to know Gen Z, become a Gen Z.
I think आपके साथ एक दिन fireside chat करना पड़ेगा Gen Z के ऊपर.
Can I just...
Getting more... Yes, go ahead.
One of the things that I've realized is that, 3 years ago, we set up a youth collective council. So हमने क्या किया, under 30K ना, and very much from what Gopal is saying, under 30K, we get every quarter, we change it. We get 3 people under 30 and to advise the CEO on what changes you may to make to the policy, what thinks about inclusivity, what thinks about consumer, what thinks about transparency, and they actually advise on changes to be made in your retail strategy, in your organizational strategy, and in your within the organization. So 3 years ago, Rajneesh and everybody else who's in retail, one very important thing they said was that, you have to be inclusive. How about, as young people, we feel very importantly about physically, handicapped people and so on and so forth. Why don't you have anything for physically handicapped across, and malls you do that, but they actually made us introduce Braille in our stores. So, कुछ चीजें हैं Gen Z की which are very important, and the Youth Collective Council which is with us, it's part of the CEO team, people from outside saying, what do you need to do to be an organization for the future? So I think that respect, and I agree with Gopal, that respect we have to give to Gen Z. They are going to be the future.
So, Gen Zs are like teenage daughters. if you have a teenage daughter and if you're able to manage her, you can manage Gen Z. Matlab, I don't know why it didn't come
Daughter,
earlier,
no son also, no?
right?
I have
Teenage,
one.
if you have a teenager.
Gopal, I have one. I don't manage her. She manages me.
Yeah, see, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say.
Anurag, is your food menu getting disrupted by Gen Z?
No, in fact, if you ask me, the biggest difference between us and the Gen Z is when we go to a restaurant which is very novel, very different, we ask questions. What is okonomiyaki or whatever, you know? This generation comes and tells you, oh, you know, in Kyoto, this is done like this. While if you go to Osaka, they do it like this. That's the difference. They are more informed, honestly. True. They are far more informed on the trends. They are far more informed about things which are not normal. They do, if you ask them about 5 types of dal, they will not tell you. Ask them about 5 types of cheese from France, they'll tell you. That's the difference. So how we manage them? No, nothing. I mean, this is my product. Please choose whatever you like.
Devang, what's happening in your business with Gen Z?
No, I mean, for sure, you know, this generation, I think multiple examples are cited. I have a teenage daughter. I have this program that we run in our office called internship, but that's not for a period. I mean, we have this internship program that we keep running throughout the year, but let's say it's set of 4 interns that we run and during the year. And I can't agree more. Not much to add from what others have already covered, but what I see is that they make you humble. The other head of department, when they write, let's say, an email, they start with some background and this. Here they have this one-liner. Don't waste your time, don't waste my time. This is the topic and this is what. It's like the head of department for one function is telling me, Devang, I'm planning to go on leave on XYZ date. I hope there is no issue. Whereas the other intern who's running in, he would write an email, I would be on leave on this date, and that's it. So not only they make you humble, they also tell you that, you know, they humble you. Yeah, they precisely humble you. So it's good. I would say you are thinking it from a very fresh perspective about how your customers are thinking. But within the organization, I believe they keep the environment very light. They keep you in the trend. They keep you what is going across the world. And especially this internship program that we run, as I was telling you, is something they come up with really, really creative and disruptive ideas. So they make us relevant in the market, is what I would say.
So I'll ask you the last question, one and a quick one for everyone before we end. The time is going off. One thing that you think is going to be a disrupting factor to hit this equilibrium in the next future? Something that you can say and others can then ponder upon how they impact, want to look at it.
No, largely, in the current circumstance, I see the external factors, the war, the tariff war, the real wars. That is what I can see. Otherwise, you know, these disruptions are also become like, you know, a habit. And now we are used to every now and then there will be something happening. But I think these are the real disruptions that can actually impact the businesses in coming days, depending on how far do they go.
Devang?
I would say zero tolerance. I think something which is expected to be given. If it's not there, then there is no room, no mercy. Zero tolerance is the name of the game going forward.
Gopal?
Yeah, I think for me, it's the speed at which customer is evolving, right? The behaviors are changing, and the way they are becoming more and more knowledgeable. I think that is the biggest disruption, because if I am not able to keep in pace with all this, then it's over.
Yeah. Shriti?
I think the biggest disruption is the infinite choices that people have today, and that ability to make those choices without constraining much of how you can influence them. I think that the infinite choices is what is going to be very disruptive future, whether it's supply chain, whether it's products, whether it's brands.
Rajneesh?
I look at 2 things. One, I see a lot of changes coming in because of AI. Second, I think in next 10 years, the consumption power is going to exponentially grow in India. And how are we gearing up to understand what they want to consume and how we are ready to service their needs. I think that will be interesting to see.
Thank you. Any questions? We'll take one. We can take one question, one or two questions in case there are any questions for this audience, this panel here. No? Anyone? Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you very much for this.